Welcome to Yell, Fight, Sooie, college football from three friendly-ish rivals.
Good morning. Live from Orlando for at least one of us. We're traveling around just like the basketball teams are this time of year. It's Yell, Fight, Sooie. I'm Andy Tomchesson. That's James Christopher. And with us, as always, is Scott
Whoa,
McIntyre.
you said basketball, and I just nodded right off. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
And the interesting thing about that is I was whispering to Scott before we got on while you were distracted. One of us has a top 10 team, and I bet he doesn't even know it.
I don't.
You do now.
I know now. Wow.
So you're currently number 7. You're projected as a 2 seed.
No welcome back. Nothing.
Oh, welcome back, Scott. Were you able to? We missed you. Did you see we put a little picture of you in the video frame?
Oh, did you guys?
Yeah, it was me and you. Actually, I was wearing this very jersey from a couple years ago.
I wasn't around,
Yeah.
Clear. Maybe that I was, I don't know, on a beach somewhere, maybe drinking fruity little drinks out of straws. I don't know. Maybe you guys had something to say about me. Maybe I listened to the show. Maybe I didn't. I don't know.
For those of you listening, Scott brought props. So, all right. No, cool. And good for them. And I think obviously the Chris Beard thing hung over the team. And so obviously I'm excited. And I guess selections, I at least know Selection Sunday is this weekend. So, right. Is it this weekend?
Yeah, it is. And you're a 2 seed.
It would be right now.
Something dramatic would have to happen for the University of Texas not to get a 2 seed. The bigger, and they've been good all year, even with their coach choking somebody and then, nothing happening to him. That's fantastic.
It really does beg the question, though, when you run like this with an interim coach in any sport, did the guy do enough to prove that he should have the job? I mean, that's the big question in Texas for me in the offseason, at least.
Well, I think one of the ego things with Texas, and I think most of our schools would have that, is the assistant coach isn't exactly a well-known product. And so can you accept the fact that this guy is a good coach versus he's a name coach? Because as soon as Beard was let go, Calipari was tied to that job and that level of coach because Texas will pay and Texas wants to be a high-profile basketball program.
And that does move the needle on recruiting because even I know who he is.
Yeah.
Because he's constantly under NCAA scrutiny.
Yeah. It also begs the question with Ole Miss letting go of their basketball coach and in the past how they really liked having Hugh Freeze around. Well, Chris Beard landed Ole Miss. Well, let's see. Sorry.
It does feel like no, but it does feel like that. Isn't that where he's rumored to be going?
Sure.
I think so. I mean, it's just
you've got Lane Kiffin. I mean, as much as you were interested in watching Bobby Petrino in Vegas, Lane Kiffin and Chris Beard in Mississippi, unfettered by law, like the rest of Mississippi, is going to be an interesting story to watch next year.
The guy holding the baby on the tarmac said to Lane Kiffin when he landed in Oxford, "Get a burner phone, coach." That is a true story. Go watch the video.
Oh, Spencer Rattler. All right.
Oh God.
So in other news, we talked about Texas and we've given Jim the appropriate amount of attention for his basketball team's prowess. From where I'm sitting, A&M, at least in conference, had the season that Arkansas was expecting to have. We're ranked 18, which is, we started off in the low 20s anyway, but we finished second in the conference to Alabama, 15-2, 15-3 in conference games, and haven't had to play most of this week. I think our first game's tonight. I haven't even looked to see who we're going to play because we're at that season. College basketball is weird to me because the conference tournaments really don't mean anything if you know you're already in the tournament.
Some seeding, it's going to determine some seeding. Obviously, I mean, if you bow out in the first round, that may drop you a seed or two, depending on how the rest of the weekend shakes out. But it's really, this time of year reminds me a lot of recruiting because what happens to this person over here can determine what happens to these three guys over here, right? So, I mean, it's from that aspect, it's an interesting time of the year. Arkansas won their first round game last night against Auburn, so we're back on the old hardwood tonight.
Hardwood.
It's but no, it's a fun time of year. Basketball fan or not, this is a really cool weekend because you get to see who made the dance and who didn't.
Yeah, I think the thing that's weird for me though is that premium's not necessarily on winning. kind of like conference baseball tournaments, because you see a lot of teams just, hey, we may have a good showing, but I don't want to blow our entire load before we get to the NCAAs. Go on.
Load.
There you go. So, if we happen to win, great. If not, doesn't matter. And that's kind of what the basketball tournaments, the conference tournaments turn into, at least for the big schools. I'm very confident that we're probably off the 8 or 7-8 line, and we're probably going to be a 5 or a 6 seed. I don't think anything that's going to happen over the next 3 days is going to change that. I mean, it could, but I think that's where we are. I think Arkansas is pretty locked in where they're locked in. So we'll see what goes. And Texas is going to be a 2 seed and should have a really favorable path, at least to the Elite 8.
Arkansas this weekend could actually do a lot for us. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Can I ask a super stupid question?
Always.
Is it like baseball? Like, do they get to host some things, or is it always neutral court situation?
Neutral courts, but if you were
no, the answer is purple New York Jets dog. Jim said stupid question, so I wanted to give a stupid answer. It wasn't a stupid question, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's neutral to an extent. So Alabama is going to be a 1 seed. They're going to get the Birmingham regional, and the sites are predetermined before the season. So it's not like baseball where, depending on how good you are, you might host. But you're going to get, if you're a 1 seed, you're going to get geographically the best, the closest arena. The interesting thing for Texas, for Texas A&M, for any other Texas schools, and honestly Arkansas, since it's not that far away, is the Final Four is in Houston this year. And so were you to make it to that point, there could certainly be some home cooking involved, or at least favorable crowds. So there's some interesting storylines as we go through the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep. And all I was saying a moment ago is that Arkansas is in a position where we could actually move up quite a bit if we're able to run the table and win the tournament. And I think it would show that it's a team that's streaking at the right time, comes into the tournament with 19 wins, leaves with 23. That's always a good sign. So that's something that could happen, but we got to get past you guys at 6:00 tonight for that. Andy,
there is that, and that'll be the rubber match, because we've split the regular season series. Cool. All right, and that orange ball talk, because I think Jim is actually get off frame in a minute if we don't stop.
Yeah, he's even hit mute on himself, and he's just rambling like crazy, just because he's like, I'm just gonna.
I'm sorry. I was up here like looking at stuff to try to catch up to the conversation.
No problem. No problem.
There's probably a superhero film on it.
We spent more time on it than we should.
He's watching Ted Lasso previews. It's fine.
My breakdown of Scream 6 is out. Go see it, by the way, if you like horror movies. But back to other sports, because I know we have a white ball to talk about.
I'll talk about.
Yeah.
Well, let's check in. We haven't heard from Scott about the Arkansas Razorbacks and their baseball prowess so far. How's the early season gone for you?
Our opening weekend down in Arlington, Texas, when Dave Van Hort said that he's not going to outdoor type of events anymore, likes the warmth. It worked out pretty well. Took 2 out of 3. Took it really hard on the chin from TCU. Problem Arkansas is facing is the same thing that's happened to us in the other 2 sports that cost us dearly. We've lost a weekend starter already before the season started. Our closer, Brady Tigert, is out for at least 6 weeks, and another reliever who was looking really promising is gone for the year. So the only game we lost since TCU was a Sunday game when Illinois State was in town, or Eastern Illinois, excuse me. And they pretty good team that's probably going to wind up making the tournament. From there, we ran the board, but we've been playing Wright State, who is good. Don't get me wrong, they beat Kentucky, but swept them. Louisiana Tech comes to town this weekend, number 3 in the nation. We're doing what we should be doing baseball wise, but to have young arms balling at this rate, 12 games in, that's concerning.
And what's going on the 40 acres right now?
Well, it's funny. You and I had that conversation when we were out at the Aggie game, which, Scott, by the way, that's a ballpark you got to get to. I just
looks great.
Really fell in love with it. But everybody's reacting the way they should to a team that I think all 3 of us had pegged pretty well. It's going to have some growing pains. It's going to take some time to figure some things out. They've lost some games late, which I think is indicative of a young and experienced team. And the very fact that there are people calling for Pierce's job already. And I think I shared a tweet. I tagged you in a tweet, Andy, about somebody was talking about, I can't believe we lost to Sam Houston State. And I was like, say you don't understand college baseball without saying you don't understand college baseball. There's no other sport in college where the talent is as split out as this one is. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm very much looking forward to where it can be at the end of the season, but it's very much what I thought they'd be.
A lot of people, I think it's the same in some other states, but in Texas especially, and that's what I'm exposed to the most, those smaller schools, quote unquote, Sam Houston, U of H, which is a Division I school, we probably shouldn't count them, UT Arlington, UT Dallas, all of those schools put together very solid baseball programs. So that Tuesday night game is not ever really a gimme. We played Rice this week, beat them pretty badly in the Bennett or the Shriner Classic over the weekend, and then had kind of more of a nail biter on Wednesday night, because even as a rough patch as Rice is going through right now, they still have talent on that team. And you can say that about just about every baseball team in Texas that plays for a D1 college. We had similar griping because we lost to Lamar early in this season. Lamar is going to have guys that get drafted off their roster. That it's just a reality of how that goes. And it's, if we face them again in May, I would be more worried about that loss, but it's there really a lot of people show their asses early in season in college baseball. I also think, and I'm personally a little bit attached to David Pierce, but I think that's been the hallmark of his coaching career at Texas, is that somebody's wanted to fire him since the day he stepped on the field. Which is weird to me, because how many years has he taken your team to the College World Series?
All but one, and
exactly.
Two of them, yeah. Well, no, but you know as well as I do, this all stems from the fact that that Patterson, the world's worst AD, that was fired 11 months into the job, made public the baseball search, and so everybody knew he was choice number 3. If they had just not known that and hired him, there was plenty on his resume to say he could have been the guy for that job. So
I think people also misunderstand the purpose of early season baseball games, right? So if you lose to the Sisterly Sisters of the Poor University on a Tuesday,
or the Portland Pilots,
it's not shocking, because first of all, you're using your best pitchers on the weekend. You're going to be careful with your bullpen. You're trying to find people already at this time of year. It could be 34 degrees with a wind blowing in from direct center field, and nothing's getting out of the park. And it could be that they throw their ace at you, because this is their chance to get a good signature win
for their RPI.
That will matter in May. That's exactly right, Jim. That's exactly right. And so you get these weird matchups during the middle of the week. Conversely, they don't play 3-game basketball series on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They don't do that with football. They don't. In baseball, if you beat somebody on Friday and Saturday and they come in Sunday, but they've been 2 close games, they're throwing the kitchen sink at you to get out of there without a sweep that weekend. I don't care who they are.
Day before win has no indicator on the next. I mean, you're as good as
absolutely
all that stuff. And I think just more to Andy's point, 2 things to remember is 11.5 scholarships. That's all you get.
That's right.
How many people play on a baseball team? 25, 30. And particularly, Andy, in our state, in the state of Texas, there's so much talent that, of course, Sam Houston State's going to be good. And the World Series MVP went to the University of Maine. What a baseball powerhouse that was. There you go.
There you go.
Makes the drive easy down to the Cape Cod League, though.
Oh, boy, don't you betcha.
I think this is the last weekend where we have the non-conference games. I don't know if the Big 12 starts yet, but we're hosting Northern Kentucky for 3. And, boy, you're going to hear some shit if we don't sweep.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
And you know what, Arkansas fans, this is the one sport where Arkansas fans actually are wiser. I guess it's because it's the sport we've been best at for the last 20 years while we were sucking with the other 2. But if we lose a game this weekend to Louisiana Tech, people are going to not like it. But I don't think there's no gnashing of teeth. And I mean, come on, it's one game on a weekend in March. It's not going to matter.
And again, Louisiana Tech's a solid program. That's not. It isn't the Little Sisters of the Poor.
But
Well, I mean, look, Texas lost 2 of 3 to. Sorry, Scott, but Texas lost 2 of 3 to Cal State Fullerton. I know that's a school we don't hear about, but they've been a baseball powerhouse forever.
Wasn't that Phil Nevin? Wasn't he Cal State? Whoever it was.
But it was because the Astros chose him number 1 when they had that pick over Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
Well, in hindsight, I still bet they wish they would have taken
Cloaked in failure.
But no, it's the way college baseball plays out. I mean, next weekend, like you're saying, Andy, this weekend we've got Louisiana Tech. Next weekend we have Auburn. The heart of the season gets in. But up until conference starts, for most of these coaches, they're really still trying to figure out, what do I have? Okay, I've learned about guys' arms in the early spring and in the fall, but what type of situations can get this guy handle? Can I put him into a pressure cooker situation out of the bullpen and he's not going to wet his pants and fall apart? Can he throw one? Is he going to throw it to the backstop and hit the mascot, or is he going to groove me a strike? I mean, these are the types of things you're trying to find out this time of year. And anybody who takes February baseball scores too seriously, by the way, really you're an idiot.
Yeah.
There.
All right. So we've alienated the basketball fans who watch this show. We've just called our other fans an idiot if they like baseball. What's left? Football.
Only the ones that don't understand it. The same ones that love the pitch clock.
And what what's frustrating too. And I've actually, after watching some of the Astros play a 7-hour game versus Venezuela, I'm kind of okay with the pitch clock now. But it's funny because on Let's Get To, we're gonna have an interview with Calvin Schiraldi, who famously won a national championship with Texas, and he just talked about how much college baseball is still the pure game he grew up with. And he's older than us. And I just wish people could get beyond that and watch it for what it is, because it's really a great way to watch baseball and a great type of baseball to watch.
The speed of the game is right. The pace of play, the base running, I do agree. And they've had a lot more time to get used to a pitch clock on the college level that personally I think is enforced better than what I've seen so far in spring training for the majors. But I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think that some of my favorite baseball to watch, Jim, is the collegiate summer leagues and college baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are out there for the heart of it. They're not, they're out there to work, and that's fun to watch.
That's our softer, gentler Scott McIntyre.
No, but people that disagree with me are idiots. How's that?
Because he switched drinks again.
You know what? This is my Dayquil. This is what wakes me up, and this is what puts me to sleep. So this is my NyQuil.
Andy, we're watching him have a drug habit on the show. Like these are cries for help, and we're just like, well, back to football.
Let's talk some more football, boys.
I don't recognize any of that. Speaking of softer and gentler, the SEC has started talking scheduling in a more official way, and I think we're all getting a clearer picture of the model, which is not official yet, but like we've been talking about, it's going to be what they call a 3-6 model. You're going to have, each team is going to have 3 permanent rivals and then 6 teams that rotate. So the goal is that you play at every stadium at least every other year, or at least once in a 4-year career if you're a college student, but you're visiting everybody. There's still some things to work out, but I think we all know who our permanent rivals are going to be. Somebody who seems surprised about a permanent rivalry for no apparent reason is Grandpa Saban up in Tuscaloosa, because he got really upset.
Sorry,
maybe he was busy filming duck commercials. I don't know, but he got really upset when somebody pointed out to him that Tennessee and LSU and Auburn were going to be Alabama's permanent rivals. Now, he started talking about the unfairness and how it's going to kill the game, and like he does with high speed offenses, having forward passes. I mean, I'm sure he's done it for a lot of things, but this one's particularly weird because I looked at the schedule last year, and then the one before that, and then the one before that, and the one all the way back to 1957. And you want to know who Alabama's played every year? Tennessee and Auburn and LSU.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we make of beyond Saban just grousing because that's who he is, because he's the most miserable son of a bitch on the planet? What do you make of that?
I'm going to let Scott jump into this, but I'm going to jump into this first only because when Scott sent the tweet about his original, I half expected it all to be different the next day. Like I half expected them to just, all right, you're right, Nick. Here's Vanderbilt and Kansas. And
you are starting to understand how the SEC works. Congratulations.
I'm learning.
Yeah, I think first of all, 70, 75-year-old men griping about how things are changing. Oh, me, I'm shocked. Okay. So and also 70, 75-year-old men like Nick Saban shaking their fist at something great and powerful in the sky that signifies nothing. Oh, wow, I'm shocked. Look, what I'm really happy about, guys, is this marks the official beginning to preseason football. It is marked at the moment that Nick Saban complains about something that doesn't matter really in the grand scheme of things, and it has no point of basis. Last year, Jimbo Fisher really, assisted and punched back at Nick, and we all felt, wow, preseason football has definitely begun. But this year, Nick Saban bitching and moaning about something that has been in existence for the last 65 years. I love it. It just lets me know that football is getting closer. They put the pads on and practices have started. And go screw yourself, Nick. I'm ready for you to retire. Get out of here so we can get some parity back in this freaking side of the fence. I'm just happy that this is what pissed me off. Okay. Nick Saban's griping about Tennessee, Auburn, and LSU. Boo freaking who? Every year since 1992, Arkansas has had to play Alabama, Auburn, LSU. Okay, those are not three bad teams. And oh, by the way, we always get Ole Miss, Mississippi State as well. But then even before A&M joined, we were rotating in teams like Georgia and Florida. Are you freaking kidding me? In the COVID year, Nick, kiss my butt, because we got stuck playing you guys in LSU when we only had two optional opponents, and they absolutely threw the book at what Arkansas had. So, Nick, if you think people are being unfair to you and biased against you in Alabama, please kiss every inch of my ass, because you're an idiot.
And just think, guys, we're one Colt McCoy pinch nerve away from Nick Saban being irrelevant.
There you go. There you go.
I'm
suddenly mad at Colt McCoy.
I'm of a couple minds on the whole Nick Saban thing, because I do think, as we say on this show a lot, and certainly on Let's Get To and Go Astros, maybe not on Let's Get To, Father Time's undefeated. And as you mentioned, Nick Saban is 75 years old. He's still probably, if not the best coach in the conversation in the top two. I don't think anybody's arguing that.
And we know his healthcare is good because he's got the gap insurance with Aflac.
100%. There's ducks walking around his house. Deion Sanders hangs out with him, even though he's busy coaching his own team.
When he's not there, Mike Krzyzewski comes out by the pool. I've seen it. I was watching it earlier. Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, just so many recruiting violations in that one 30-second clip it's amazing. But I do think that part of Saban's gripes lately, and going back to last year with NIL, going to the scheduling issue, is that he does recognize that he's at the end or close to the end, and he's not the top dog in the conference anymore. Alabama is not the school. Alabama might be number two, and I think you can have an argument with a couple other things, but Georgia's the one leading the pack now. I don't think there's any dispute about back-to-back championships. In the way that they won those championships was not looking into it. It wasn't Auburn, getting good for one season and falling back to the pack. Georgia's built a juggernaut that I don't know that Alabama can currently compete with. And we've seen it over the last two seasons that they can't compete with them necessarily. So do I expect Alabama to be good? Yes. But do I expect Saban magic to wear off? And maybe not this year. Maybe they win a national championship this year. But at some point in the near future, Saban isn't Saban anymore. And I think some of the windmill tilting he does is kind of a recognition, even subconsciously, that that's what's happening. Because I guarantee you, if they had given him, I'll just pick some schools, A&M and Mississippi State and Florida, he'd have a problem with that schedule too.
Probably.
I think if anything that wasn't Missouri, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky, he would have a problem with. He'll have a problem with Kentucky too, because Kentucky's pretty good.
Well, I think also one of the signs about Alabama, and I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Alabama is on the decline and falling apart. There are the competition around them has gotten better for sure. And look, let's face it, that staff under Saban, there has been a lot of turnover. Guys come in as an analyst, they're going somewhere else. They're an analyst one year, an assistant the next year, and then they're gone somewhere else.
And at some point, you're going to stop hitting on someone. Like at some point,
bingo.
The odds are saying, to use an Astros comparison again, like at some point you can only plug and play unheard of minors, and it stops working at some point.
Well, he already started that. He hired Bill O'Brien and let him screw up his offense for 2 years. Yeah. Everybody in football could say that wasn't a good fit. And Saban, I think, has a certain ego when it comes to this rehabilitation program he gets teased for, because it has worked for some guys. It has worked for Lane Kiffin and a few others that have learned the Saban way and gotten better as head coaches. But you're right.
The game itself has rapidly evolved the last 10 years. Let's think about that. Think about the Alabama 6, LSU 3 games, right? I mean, it was a battle of field goals where nobody could get past midfield, just pounding away at each other with these defenses. And now you've got teams that are spreading you wide. They're running, it's dink and dunk. Even Alabama opened up their offense after that. The game has really drastically changed the last 10 years. Maybe more so than since the wishbone.
After a year-long rant from Saban about how rapid-fire offenses and spread offenses were going to kill football because of the injuries and how detrimental it was to the kids, and then 6 months later, guess what? We're running.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you, man. Here's the one thing also I want to throw it out there, and we can talk about this more later, but football rules that they change coming into each season. I'm so disappointed that the NCAA did not address players faking injuries on the field in order to get timeouts from some of these offenses. There's got to be a better way to do that. This is like the third year in a row they had the chance to address it and they just let it go by. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's part of the topic I want to discuss in the coming weeks and maybe even next week. But I don't love that they're suggesting the timing of how plays run is going to look more like the NFL, because the NFL, frankly, is pretty boring. One of the great things about college football is that you can have a chance to march down the field without timeouts at the end of a game by making first downs and getting out of bounds.
It's democratic, man.
And that's there's no need to fix that part of it.
I'll drink to that.
So I think that's all we have for today. Good luck to your basketball teams, except for you tonight, Scott.
Go screw yourself.
I may. I'm going to the Orlando airport in a few minutes, so that may happen. PSA has some weird rules these days.
I don't even know what that means. Okay, cool.
Well,
safe travels today on your way back from Orlando.
Yeah, safe travels, buddy. We'll be,
As George Carlin said, please be sure to store your stewardess in her proper upright position.
I already have the upgrade, and for some reason there are lay flat seats coming from Orlando to Houston. It's only an hour. It's only a 2-hour flight, but
that's a thing. You can lay flat on an airplane.
Yes. I hope you fly Southwest.
If recreational is legal there, I mean, you could. Never mind. Get 2 hours of sleep really easy, but
really.
Never mind.
All right. Any parting shots, gentlemen?
Nope. Just again, go see Scream 6. It's fun. Best 6th part of a horror movie franchise ever.
The best week of basketball is just about to begin. The first week of the NCAA tournament kicks off next week. That's just fun, guys. Fill out your brackets. Go have some fun with it. Somebody will be right. Probably be little Jennifer down the hallway that works in accounting who doesn't have a clue about basketball. I just picked my bracket off of who has the prettiest uniforms, and she'll win the $460 in the pool.
Jessica won $500 a couple years in a row by figuring out which mascot could beat the other mascot in an actual fight. That was actually how she did it.
Yana, the prosecution rests.
And if you don't like the orange bouncy ball, get yourself out to a neighborhood college game, because they're plentiful, they're super cheap, and they're a whole heck of a lot of fun. For Yell Fight Sooie, I'm Andy Tomchesson. That's Scott McIntyre. And that's James Christopher over there flashing the hook 'em horns. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.